All right, we're waiting on Alderman Bledsoe.
Price is down there, I put my glasses up now.
He's here.
You can do the.
Already down that way? Y'all ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Horn Lake Board of Aldermen. I'd like to call this meeting to order and thank all you citizens for turning out tonight. Good government depends on the involvement of citizens, and we certainly appreciate you coming out. I'd like to also recognize in our audience tonight, we have our state representative, Mrs. Hester Jackson McCray. Thank you so much for coming, ma'am. And thank you for all your support you give the city down there in Jackson, Mississippi. We certainly appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to call on Alderman Johnson for our invocation.
Let us bow. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. Thank you for allowing us to assemble here once again. Lord, thank you for looking at our hearts, Lord God, and knowing our heart and our true feelings, God. Lord, I ask for a blessing for those who don't know you, God, and ask for a blessing for those who may be hurting right now. Lord, bless each one of our families. You know our needs and our desires. God, bless our city, bless our country. Give us the right things to do and the right words to say. Help us to make the right decisions. These things I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Young?
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Johnson, thank you for that very nice invocation. All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Young.
All right, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the vote on the municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the municipal docket.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 2 on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through P and also add items A and D on new business to it also, please.
A and D.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir.
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Miss Julie.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Alderman Bostic.
I would like to recognize any of the new hires that we just approved for hire if they are in the audience. To stand, anybody here? All right, I guess not.
Thank you, though. Thank you very much, sir. All right, number 3 on the agenda is the claims docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the claims docket, general fund, $900,704.48. The library fund, $13,392.50. The economic development fund, $17,770.14. The utility fund, $43,692.96, for a total docket of $975,560.08.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 4 on the agenda is special guests and presentations. I don't have any listed. We have none, all right. Moving down to number 5 on your agenda.
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
several meetings back, we had an issue to come up, and we let citizens' remarks come up before planning was able to speak, to get the citizens' remarks heard. Would it be possible to do that tonight?
What are the feelings of the board?
No problem.
Mr. Billy, legal?
Mr. Mayor, it's fine. If anyone needs to speak on items A, B, C, D, or F under planning, they certainly can speak during the public hearing on any of those matters.
Okay.
All right, you want to hold off? Okay.
No. The issue is, like last time, the issues will be voted on before the citizens could be heard.
No, sir, it'll be a public hearing.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're on number 5. Everybody sit? Okay. Letter A, Mr. Barr. You, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Alderman and folks in attendance. Yeah, let's get started with the first case here, which is a rezoning request. Maybe I'll have Julie, if she could just scroll down to the first, I'll tell her, yeah, stop on that one, yeah. So, yeah, so this is a request to rezone about 20 acres on the east side of Highway 51 in town from the existing PUD zoning to C3. And the Planning Commission looked at that case last month, and they recommended approval of the request by a 3-2 margin. It's currently in the DeSoto Commons PUD, and there are different areas of that particular PUD that it references. Parcel this, parcel A, parcel B, parcel C. Please don't get confused with their existing zoning structure because it's a bit different. And so the Planning Commission went through the same PowerPoint from last month. With a C3 zoning district, the structure inside the city's zoning ordinances does, if permitted, does allow for 60 land uses by right. That would be permitted by right without having to come back before the Planning Commission or the board for a conditional use for another land use. And so this particular slide is showing the existing zoning in the area. There's PUD to the north and the east of the subject property. And there's an RM6 with some single-family residences to the south. Then there's also C4 zoning with some commercial uses to the south. And then across the highway to the west, there's C4 zoning there's a non-conforming house as far as one of the residential uses there, and then also a commercial use kind of to the southwest. So that kind of rounds out the zoning and uses in that area. Yeah, if you could stop on that one. It does show that the subject property is about 50% located, maybe a bit less than that, in the 100-year floodplain. On this particular slide, the red or pinkish area is the 100-year designated floodplain, and the yellow area is the 500-year floodplain. The applicant is aware of that particular status of the property as being in the floodplain. And the next slides that were provided in your packet, they just kind of detail the existing land uses that are permitted by right in the PUD now, and it contrasts them with the proposed C3 zoning. As I stated earlier, the C3 zoning does allow 60 land uses by right. Part of the reasoning for that, for the request to the C3, is that the DeSoto Commons PUD is basically kind of antiquated, so it's very hard to administer. So part of the advantage with the C3 request is to kind of come into the city's contemporary zoning structure, if you will, if it's approved. me stop there. So in the end, as I stated earlier, the planning commission recommended approval of the request by a 3-2 margin. And I believe the applicant's here tonight. If you have any questions, that would conclude the presentation unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing, which I now declare open. Does the applicant want to come forward first, if you had anything to say? That's just in case anybody else in the audience has any questions or comments, you can kind of see which way this is going. Good evening, Mr. Sam.
Good evening, how you doing?
Do y'all have this gentleman's name and address? Thank
Sam
you, sir.
Patel, address is 7100 Sutton Place. We have a hotel in town as well. Our intention for the rezoning is actually for conditional use, which is the next line, I think.
Do me a favor and speak into the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. Our end goal is for conditional use to do an RV park, and that's where the rezoning and talking with Mr. Barr, the process was to rezone it and then apply for the conditional use. So I think both these are A and B on our agenda, or hand in hand, if you will. Part of it, and I'm open to any questions. We have we've had renderings done. I can pass these around if that's.
Sir, right now, we're just considering, A.
Okay,
If we roll them together, it'll just confuse everybody.
fair enough.
Everybody in the audience, and that way the board can vote on each item
Sure.
as it comes through.
Okay.
All right, do you have anything else to say about, letter A, sir?
No, sir.
Is anybody on the board? Alderman Bostic?
How you doing this evening?
Good.
Great. I wanted to ask the board if they could make an exception to this rezoning to C3. I know it has a lot of things that can be built there, and the intention of Mr. Patel is to build an RV park, and I want to make a condition that that is the only thing that is built there. I don't want another gas station, another car wash, another liquor store, or, whatever, strip mall. I want to make sure that we can make a condition that that is an RV park only for that land, if that's possible.
Can I add to that? Okay, so we do have an out parcel, 9,000 square foot retail center. That's part of this plan, but I would say 90% of the drawing is for the RV park.
There's not any plans for like a fueling station or
No.
I just want to make sure that we use that
Understood.
area and what you're planning to do just that.
Sure.
If that's not what's going to happen, then I would like to, at a later date, rezone it back.
Sure.
To whatever, what it was with
Understood.
the approval of the rest of the board.
Mr. Campbell, can such a condition be attached to that?
It can, Mr. Mayor. The board always has the discretion to conditionally rezone property.
All right, sir. Is anybody on the board? Alderman Bledsoe?
I second
Well,
his motion.
well, okay.
Let's go.
All right, well,
I got the next one too. Let's get them done.
all right, first things first, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Patel? Anything? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Mr. Miller? We know your address, Mr. Miller, so speak
And I'll
right.
give you my name. It's Francis J. Miller, voting resident of Ward 5. Now, thank you, Alderman Bosick. I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and that was my argument from get-go with the planning commissioners. You approve that rezoning, and he doesn't keep his word. You subject yourself to whatever, 65 conditions. You just took care of that if you have the power to enforce it. That was my concern. RV park goes where he says it's going to go and he doesn't change his mind. That was my only argument, RV park. You took care of it if they'll vote with you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anyone else have any comments or questions? Anyone? All right, anybody on the board? All right, this public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion? Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 2098 RZ, request for rezoning and zoning amendment to change from the existing DeSoto Commons PUD to a C3 general commercial district on a parcel of 19.63 plus or minus acres at 6572 Highway 51 North, with the condition of only an R park and a small out parcel there for commercial.
Can we go with just the word small, or does it need to be more specific?
I think he said 9,000 square feet. Is
You
that
want
right?
to put that in there?
9,000 square feet.
Okay. We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Mr. Patel, before the board votes on that, you heard the motion. Are you agreeable to that? All right, sir. We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter B is also a public hearing, which I declare open. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is basically the same parcel that was heard from that previous case, but this, given that the board has approved the C3 zoning request, this is a pathway through the city's zoning ordinance for the RV park. So this is a request for an RV park land use on the same parcel. It's the only, if I remember correctly, it's the only zoning district that allows for an RV park in the city's current zoning scheme. Yeah. So this is about the same slide as we saw earlier, just showing the subject parcel highlighted in the blue box. And the Planning Commission took this same case up during the month of September, and they recommended to this board of approval by a 5-0 margin. And I believe there was 2 conditions attached to that. Oh, she's already there. Excellent. Yeah, so they recommended approval with the 2 conditions. The number 1, the owner/applicant shall develop an emergency action plan to satisfy the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as MEMA, in the city of Horn Lake, because the property is located within the 100-year designated floodplain. This could also be deferred until the site plan and design review as well. So it could be done tonight, or it could be deferred to a future case, entitlement case processed by the city. And then number 2, subdivide/plat the property according to the city's subdivision regulations. Those were the 2 conditions that were attached on the recommendation for approval. That would conclude the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barr? Alderman Young.
Mr. Barr, on the 2 conditions, 1, the emergency egress with MEMA, why was that even a concern? There's no permanent buildings back up there. They're all transportable units. Why was that even a condition or allowed to be brought forward?
Very good question, Alderman Young. In a way, this is a similar land use to the truck parking conditional use case. That was a requirement that came from MEMA and the city's floodplain regulations. And so this is a way to kind of basically step ahead of that, if we will, to require that. So in a case of a flood event, they would have some type of plan in place, some type of pre-thought, if you will, to be able to remove the RVs in a timely manner. So that's why the reasoning or the logic behind that particular condition.
Okay, with that thought in mind, if I'm not mistaken, the floodplain plan that is in effect only covers permanently monitored, mounted businesses. A tractor trailer is able to be moved as well as a mobile home or a motor home in this situation. They're not building a house there. They're not building a building there. What they're building is outside of the floodplain. I don't really see the need for that. I mean, it's just like they're trying to add some mud in the water, and I think we need to be going that direction.
Well, in a similar vein to the truck parking use, which is a conditional use in an M1 zone, and this is a conditional use for an RV park, what we have is, there is wording in the floodplain regulations that deals with basically not permanent structures, but transient structures, which these are. And so therefore, that's why that requirement came from MEMA on the other case. And so this is just trying to look ahead in preparation to be ahead of that. So that the actual applicant or property owner has put some forethought into being able to respond to a flood in a timely manner. So,
Not to have a pun, but to have a pun, that's weakest part.
so.
Anything else, Alderman? Anyone else? All right, Mr. Patel, did you want to come back and address the board again? Would y'all like for Mr. Patel to come forward? Yes. Mr. Patel, please.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted you to hand us a picture. I want to look at it.
Oh, sorry.
You know, visuals are always great, man. Is this the one copy? That's it? Okay. Have you got anything like this, Chad, that you can put up on the board?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Guess I could show the audience what I'm looking at. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I need to show y'all too, huh?
We're going to pass them this way. Y'all get
Here you go.
that way.
Same one we saw there.
Mayor,
See that?
question.
Yes, sir.
Will you be planting a lot of these trees?
Our intentions are
Like
yes.
this?
Yeah. Is to make it, yeah.
So it's gonna look like this, right?
Our intention is to make it look, yes,
That's a good looking RV park.
yes. We believe so.
So if we approve this, this is what we want.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Alderman Bledsoe. Sure.
You gonna run this kinda like Yogi Bear,
Speak,
Yes, sir.
and everything's gonna be good?
speaking to your mic.
Yeah, I talk so loud, everybody says back away. Main thing, we wanna keep real nice, kinda like Yogi Bear, they do a good job.
They do. Yeah, our,
Anything else?
no, our intention is to mimic that for sure. Yeah, at a minimum.
Have you got a name for it yet?
No, we're
wow.
still trying to come up with some.
Just don't put Memphis, Tennessee on the sign.
No. Hey, boo. Yeah.
Boo-boo, there you go.
Yeah.
Or Cindy, there you go.
Mr. Patel,
Yes, sir.
these are not going to be permanent residences, are they?
No.
People have a certain number of days they can stay, then they have to move.
Yes.
May I ask, how many, have you thought about how many days?
We haven't thought about it. Part of the customer base we're looking at is with a lot of industrial development going on, right? A lot of project managers and things coming down. We see that even at our hotel, but we see them bringing their own RVs or a smaller RV and staying there because it's just more cost effective. So I see those guys being there longer. I think you're looking at 7 to 14 days to 21 days is in the range where your average stay will probably be.
I'm surprised it's that short. I figured it'd be several months, but there's not going to be any rental property on here.
No, there's no rent. No, it's all, the only physical structures will be the retail outlet and then our office, if you will,
Any of the
commercial.
recreational vehicles or trailers, they're going to be owned by the people that are staying in them.
Correct. Correct.
Awesome.
Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Patel,
Yes, ma'am.
will there ever be a time where your days may be extended if you needed them to be?
If somebody wanted to extend their stay, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how will that be controlled? You know, if I wanted to continue to extend even after the initial days,
Sure.
how many times will they be allowed to extend?
So I'll play off her hospitality background a little bit, right? Where if you're a good paying customer and there's no issues, if you will, then, you know, I don't see an issue there, right? Now, but if there's issues happening or if other residents or, you know, heaven forbid, we have to call the cops for whatever reason, then yeah, your stay is short-lived. And if not, us forcing you to say, okay, find another place to stay.
Yes, sir. So this will be strictly for, let's say, vacation.
That's our intention, yes. Yeah, majority of our people people that are coming from out of town, and looking for another nice place to stay, because with our research with Yogi Bear and the one around the corner from them, you can't find a place right now. Like if you were to call them up, it's a month plus type waiting, or 2 or 3 week waiting to frame. So we definitely see that, more out of town guests than local.
If I moved out of my home, did not have a place to stay, and came to you guys for that amount of time and asked to extend, there would be no criteria or no consequences for staying any longer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Consequences meaning how?
Well, would I be allowed to stay? That's what I.
Yeah, again, if there's no issues that are happening, right, which is, again, from our hospitality background, same thing, right? Not all money is good money at the end of the day. And so we're not looking to displace 10 other people because of just one person. I'd rather let the one person go and then keep the other 10 happy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Johnson,
Yes, sir, I'm done.
Alderman Bostic.
So there's not a set amount of days then in your contract. When somebody parks their trailer, it's not a set amount of days.
No,
So
'cause
they could, I mean, what's gonna be the initial, they say, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna be in town, I'm gonna be a tourist, and I'm gonna, go all over DeSoto County and Memphis, and I need to be here for 30 days, 60 days. I mean, is there gonna be a limit to, what, you can see where we're going with
I
this.
understand.
Okay?
So
we need to pin down
Sure.
what you're gonna do. I
So
mean,
it's gonna mimic just like the other two are, right? There's daily, if you will, weekly, and then there's monthly, right? With Yogi Bear, they actually have physical structures on place, right? That you can rent those and stay there, right? We don't have anything like that. So our intention is, again, it's gonna be a mix of everything, daily, weekly, and monthlies, right?
Okay.
A lot of it is also gonna, it's not might be what you want to hear, but, if you're coming in town for a construction project, yeah, I see that as different as, hey, I just came in and I need a place to stay for 6 months, and I don't know why you're here, right? I mean, we're always asking our customers, again, so from a hospitality background, what brings you into town? Right? You're traveling for work, you're traveling for pleasure, what is it, right? And hearing that out to say, okay, hey, here's what we're looking to stay.
So you would have like separate contracts. So if somebody came into your office and said, I'm here for a week, don't want to talk to me, then they're gonna sign a week contract, or somewhere in that contract, they're gonna sign, if it's a construction crew that's coming in and they're saying, we need to park our trailer here for 6 months, then they're definitely gonna be there just for that construction crew for 6 months.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? We just need to make sure that everything's done and we don't have people staying there for.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and that our intention is not to have that, right?
I mean, we want it open up to all the tourists, and people come
Correct.
in, they want to camp, they want to put up a tent, they want to,
Right.
and go in and out like just pretty much everywhere else.
Right.
We want to make sure that we've got things pinned down to where we don't have permanent residents in this RV park.
Correct.
It becomes something other than a RV park.
Right, and we're not having any mobile home structures or anything like that. These are RVs or tag along or whatever you want to call them. There's no mobile home type facilities that you roll up in that and you set up a whole structure and says, okay, I'm here. That's not happening, right? We're not looking for those people. Again, as you see from our renderings, it's not we're not trying to do this cheap by any means, right? I mean, if we're gonna spend this type of money into the project, we wanna make sure that we get the right people in there and that, you know, the reviews are good and the people keep coming back, just like from our hospitality.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Alderman Dupree.
I've seen an RV park not far from here, it's just south of here, that you can rent the spot for 60 days. And after the 60 days, you physically have to pick all your stuff up and move to another spot for another 60 days.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen or heard of that.
It's
I
in
don't know if
Tunica.
it's-
Some people actually live there
Right,
doing that. But after 60 days, they physically
gotta-
have to pick up and move
you don't move,
if there's another spot available.
sure.
So would you be willing to do something of that nature?
We could look at it for sure, yeah, I mean, I don't see the logic behind it, but besides just making it inconvenient at the end of the day, right? When-
Because I'm thinking about the construction as well. We have a lot of it. You know, sometimes they're here 4, 5, 6 months.
Right.
And they need a place to stay.
Right.
Okay.
Alderman Young.
Mr. Patel, I would direct you, the state statute regarding this.
Mhm.
It's a maximum of 60 days, and
Okay.
they must leave the property 60th day.
Okay.
Total day, then they can come back and renew for another 60. That is state statute, and the city does not have an ordinance pertaining to that, so you'll have to follow the state
Sure.
statute. So I would get with, your your senator or your representative and make sure you're in compliance with that.
Sure.
And I don't have a doubt that you'll do that, but it's a maximum of 60 days.
Okay.
The 60 day, they must leave for one
Move.
full day.
They come back.
For another 60, you know, so.
Yep.
keep that in mind.
Okay, I appreciate it. I was not aware of that.
Thank you for pointing that out, sir. Any more questions? Alderman Geis.
Mine would be real quick. I think what everybody's getting at is we just want to make sure that they don't take up permanent residence.
And we're not looking for permanent residents ourselves, right? That's not, I mean, just like in our hotel, if somebody's gonna stay there for a year, we're not looking for that same person to be there for a year.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks for the walking path back there in the floodway. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you one.
Alderman Bostic.
All these nice pictures and everything, could you email that to each one of us?
I can, yeah.
All of our emails are on the city website.
Okay.
So if you could do that, to where we would have a copy of that we could share with people about what we're talking about and
Sure.
doing up here that couldn't see the pictures when I
Sure.
have them up.
Yeah,
All right.
fair enough.
Mayor?
Alderman Klein.
If I'm not mistaken, the Yogi Bear Park, they have stipulation that they have to move, and I was thinking it was like 2 weeks. So, I mean, I believe there's some kind already in place. I don't know if Mr. Barr could do some, is it 30 days? But I know Yogi Bear has something in
Right.
place where they have to move after
Sure.
a certain period of time. I was thinking it was shorter than that, but.
No, every 30 days because of the contract.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Because the construction crews at the time were coming in, and they need to stay 30 days. And we slipped up on those things up front. That was, I think, a mess up. They got there, I didn't want them there, but somehow they got there. That's what, we don't want to play a park,
No, and yeah,
RV park.
right,
Well, I think it's important that they do move
right.
where they don't set up front.
Well, I mean, if 60 days is statute, then they're forced to check out for a day, I guess.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Patel. We'll see if anybody in the audience wants to have any comments. Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman. Good evening, sir.
Good day, Alderman, Mayor, and all
Calvin Freeman, 1398 Arbor Lake Drive North. I appreciate the growth y'all doing in Arbor Lakes. My only concern about this RV park is, I hope when it establishes that there'll be no kind of like balling or frying on the ground, unless it's on top of a slab. Since this park gonna be in place, that's the only thing I like to see when they do get it up and running, they don't do no kind of balling, prevent fire. That's my only concern about that. I know it will be a park people want to cook, But when they start boiling, you know, with the little propane, I like to see some, you know, if this continue to move forward, you know, that'd be looked at real well.
Are
That
you-
I pass.
Are you saying, Mr. Freeman, like any outside cooking must be on a
A concrete,
slab? Yeah,
Right.
any outside cooking?
right, 'cause since it's gonna be a park, some people may want, you know, extend it to another level, you know, of a big party. You know, I see it in New Orleans, it's happening in city parks and all that. Now they start putting that in place, you know.
For those who don't know, Mr. Freeman lives in Arbor Lakes over there, and they run a great neighborhood. And that's why he's concerned about the outside cooking, because we're right up next to that subdivision. That's a good point.
I did that, I pass.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Freeman?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I have one concern about this. When this first came up about doing anything right there because of Arbor Lakes, and I know the buffer, if I read this correct, there's going to be a good enough buffer there, and they're going to plant evergreen trees and everything. And I know the back of those properties over there at Arbor Lakes all have wooden fence there. Are you cool, is the neighborhood cool with that big buffer they're gonna have there with the nice trees, and as long as they keep it all maintained, or would you rather have a chain link fence just on that side to block it off to keep from going over either way, or what would you think there?
Well, Alderman, we having our association meeting this Thursday. I'll put it out there and hope we get feedback, but right now, I'm gonna fire the guidance of you, the Alderman that's here, because y'all making a decision. I appreciate, like I'm saying, the decision y'all making. My only concern right now is the safety aspect of cooking on the grass with the dry grass, you know, where we have the summer months. You know, somebody might have an RV, you know, and he might get more acquainted, people start coming in, it might be a big party. I want to make sure it don't get to that level.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Johnson.
I don't have a question for him. Can I ask Mr. Patel a question pertaining to that same issue?
All right, then. All right, thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Patel, please.
Mr. Patel, is there a common area plan?
Yes, so there,
A place like Mr. Freeman is describing so that no one is, say, barbecuing that's not on a slab or anything of that nature?
there will be a public area, but I think inherently, as RV parks go, as Mr. Freeman said, there people are gonna bar, but we do have all of our, pull-ups, they're, based on the site plan, they're all concrete pads. It's not gravel or anything like that. They're all concrete pads. Not just where you pull up, but even off to the side where, a bench would be or anything like that as your sitting area outside. Those are all, everything's a concrete pad out there for each pull through.
Thank you.
Mr. Patel, in other words, you're saying you would put in there, if they were going to cook outside, they'd have to be on a hard surface?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We can make that.
Anybody else have any more? Alderman Dupree?
If approved, when do you start breaking ground?
Next step is we've talked to, our lender and they're interested in financing it, so we're submitting our financial projections and everything to them. If everything goes, then, we're looking summerish next year to start moving dirt and really go through it, the process, and get it done.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Patel. Anyone else in the audience to speak? Mr. Miller?
Again, my name is Francis J. Miller, voting resident, Ward 5. Okay, usually when there's a conditional use in Horn Lake, to the best of my knowledge, there's always a time on that conditional use. Now, an RV park, I don't know if you make it as long as the person applying is still alive and owns it, or what do you do? He starts the RV park or whatever, and for whatever reason, sells out 4 years later, 5 years to someone else that doesn't go for the RV park or whatever. Is that conditional use permanent? I've heard lots of 5-year conditional uses, but you can't put an RV park for 5 years. But I think there should be some kind of wording probably tied to the title of the person building it or something. So if he invests millions of dollars, he can keep his investment. But I still think you need a conditional use time put in the conditional use.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. George Dixon.
I know I've
Oh, it's
been,
just been Mrs. Dixon's time. You've been,
everybody already knows me. I know I've been in some of the RV parks, and they park on the grass or they park on concrete. And what I'm curious now is all these spots gonna have a concrete pad for them to park the wheels on, connected to electricity, sewer, and water.
Mr. Patel, he's nodding yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. George. Anyone else? Anybody on the board? All right, this public hearing is now closed. We have a motion.
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I would like to make a motion to approve case number 2099, conditional use request for a recreational vehicle park at 6572 Highway 51 North, consisting of a total of 19.6 feet plus or minus acres. And with that motion, I was going to ask Mr. Barr, that Mr. Miller did bring up something we need to think about on the length. Is there something that I need to make in that motion to make that conditional use for 20 years, 30 years?
Very good question. Yeah, I'm thinking a longer piece of time, considering, a landowner or applicant would have a considerable amount of capital invested, in such a request. To me, I would advise not tying it to the applicant or the owner, because then it looks like it's being tied to a particular owner and it's not basically being decided on upon objective land use factors. It's more about the person. So I'd kind of steer away from that, but I think, a 20, 25, 30-year time frame would seem reasonable.
That would be a separate motion.
It would be in this motion.
So I could go ahead and add that 30-year conditional use to that? Correct, okay.
What about the hard surface cooking?
Right, and, well, he already said he was gonna do all that, so that's
I want to put it in there to be sure.
well, we can. And also add the conditions of the concrete surface for any cooking. Make sure everything's hooked up properly, how it should be operated.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion?
Hold on one second, Mayor.
All right, sir.
There was two conditions on that. There was two conditions on that also, was there, Mr. Barr?
Yes, those were suggested and carried through by the Planning Commission.
Right, yeah, I want to add those two conditions to that also. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Second, still good? Everybody okay? All right. I'd just like to comment that I appreciate Mr. Barr pointing out not tying the conditional use to any specific person. When I had my business, I had a liquor store. That was a conditional use. When I went to sell it, of course, whoever wanted to get it got it. Then when that time limit came out, they came back. But it's not tied to any specific person. I appreciate the board recognize that because he's going to spend a lot of money here in Horn Lake. And we don't want to handicap the man with unnecessary time limits. Any more discussion? Alderman Bledsoe.
Police, fire, and public works, I'm either with it or they okay with it.
Y'all all right with this? How about you, Chief?
Yeah, as long as everything's put in by the plans when we review them.
All right.
Our hydrants have to be put in there, so they'll have to do all that.
That'll come with the site.
It all went in Yogi Berra too.
Mr. Box, you comfortable?
Yes, sir. We're good as long as everything's done to code.
All right, good question. All right, any more questions, comments? Roll call, please, Ms. Julie.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter C is also a public hearing, which is now open. And well, let me close the other one first. Open up this one. All right, Mr. Barr, you're on.
Yes, thank you. This case.
Good night, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yes, this case is a proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance. It was initiated back by the board in August. Yes, this is August. And then it was considered by the Planning Commission in September, and there's before you again tonight as it's went the whole loop. And what we've got is, you've probably seen this map before. This is a map made in-house by the planning intern, now Planner One. But it shows 2 areas that are listed in the zoning ordinance. Excuse me. And the red area is around Bullfrog Corner. It's a signage overlay area. And then the purple area is on the west side of the Interstate 55 and 69. It's also an overlay type of area, and it poses more signage constraints, if you will. It looks like in their concept. So that's what those 2 areas are showing. Go ahead and scroll down. Maybe go all the way towards the end if you could. We've got a series of photos. If you have any questions or if you need to go back and look at any particular slide or something like that as contained in your packet, we can certainly do that. No, maybe not go all the way to the end. Let's pick up the amendments. Yeah, right there. That's a good one. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll detail the amendments, and then if there's any questions, we can deal with that. But I wanted to be specific here to make sure that there was understanding as far as what's being proposed. And so what's shown here is, as far as new proposed wording that would enter into the zoning ordinance, if approved, would be in bold font. And then what's proposed to be deleted would have a strike through it. And so here we go on this number 7, which this particular presentation, I divided into 7 parts or so. And then we've got, there's like 5 parts of the actual amendment itself to be able to cover it. So text amendment number 1, right now we have a definition in the zoning ordinance of a sign-billboard, and it just references a type of large advertising. So that's very arbitrary. I remember back in my college days that when the government was supposed to act in a planning and zoning manner, it wasn't supposed to do so in an arbitrary area. So, I mean, obviously we could do like a policy, an in-house policy within the department and say, okay, something bigger than this is large, something smaller than this, whatever that number would be, is not a large billboard or advertising or such. So to be more with a kind of a modern day definition, the suggested replacement is there in the bold print. It's a freestanding ground sign or pole sign located on land that has industrial or commercial zoning. If the sign is designed or intended to direct attention to a business, product, or service that is not sold, offered, or existing on the property where the sign is located. That is an off-premise sign. And that's key. We'll find something else here that's very key, specific in the wording, but that's kind of an industry standard for a billboard, that particular definition. Number 12 there on the bottom of that slide, we've just tried to add some clarification under 12A, that this particular wording in this section would not apply to billboard signs, just for clarification. Because the danger with any text amendment, I get nervous anytime a text amendment is proposed, unless it's very, very, very simple and very, very small. And what I mean by that is I call it the phrase of the law of unintended outcomes. Because when you go in to change large amounts of wording, you just never know what kind of nuance that's going to pose, particularly with sign regulations, which is probably, to most practitioners, would be considered the most difficult part of a zoning ordinance is the sign ordinance for myriad of reasons or whatever. So what we did is after this, before Planning Commission and after Planning Commission, I just let this set for a while and then came back to it with some fresh thinking, if you will, and to see if we were doing anything as far as that law of unintended outcomes. Because if you direct one intended outcome, but if you change wording, something else may happen elsewhere because it's dealt with in other capacities throughout the zoning ordinance. So that's what I'm referring to there. Oh yeah, you're doing very good. With text amendment number 2, Since right now, the wording in the zoning ordinance refers to, like the billboards or the electronic message centers, in commercial districts or industrial districts, and because of the propensity of the area that's, under question that be changed per the initiation has PUD zoning, I felt it was imperative to add that specific wording here under number 2, and then this 1, where it says, in all commercial and planned unit development districts that allow commercial land uses. I thought it was imperative that we add clarification there by adding that wording there under text amendment number 2. And at the bottom there, under item E, right now the wording is that on an electronic changeable message sign, that there's a minimum of 10 seconds before changing to another message. The industry standard is more for an 8-second hold time, and so what's proposed there is just to go with 8 seconds. Okay, and then on this particular slide under item H, there is wording in there. It says that exists now. The text of the sign must be limited to 10 words to allow passing motorists to read the entire copy with minimal distraction. We thought this might be a very difficult thing to enforce, considering if you're talking about a changeable message sign. Once the sign, if it gets to be allowed, permitted, it doesn't come back to us like a standard sign. A standard sign, whether you want to change the copy or whatever, you can look at it and see what it says or whatever, but with electronic, it doesn't come back to us for review. So, and looking some of the area billboards and electronic changeable signs, what I found was that most of the signs actually have more than 10 words on it. So I think it would be likely that what's proposed here is that we'd have signs with more than 10 words. So what's proposed here is for that to be stricken, and if that's stricken, then the items that follow it would need to be re-lettered, and so that's what's being stated there. Under letter J, it says currently the electronic message sign shall not be permitted in the Highway 51 and the I-55 sign overlay districts, which were shown on that first slide on this particular case with that map. It shows where those areas are. Right now, the only ones that can be allowed is to advertise fuel sales, like for gas stations and that sort of thing. So I thought it was important to add the wording, and except for billboards along the I-55 sign overlay district, whereby they shall be allowed via a conditional use. I do have some doubts about whether to allow it as a conditional use and just allow it outright. And the reason I state that is that when a person looks at a conditional use through both the Planning Commission and then also the Board of Aldermen, the zoning ordinance enumerates, 11 different factors of consideration, but a lot of them don't have anything to do with electronic message center. For example, the items that a Board of Aldermen would consider, whether a conditional use, in this case for electronic message center, would have anything to do with off-street parking and loading areas, refuse and service areas, utilities with reference to location and availability, screening and buffering. I mean, if you screen a billboard, then you can't see it. So required yards and open space. Really the only two that might be pertinent for a conditional use permit review would be general compatibility, and then also any other provision deemed okay or acceptable by the governing authorities. So that's just a thought.
Excuse me, so you're saying it's really, you can leave out.
It's clear in my head.
Conditional use
Oh,
requirement.
I'm sorry.
You can leave out the conditional use requirement there.
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm just putting it out there. That's what was proposed. It went through the Planning Commission. They were okay with it. I'm just putting it out there as an idea, as maybe totally not have it as a conditional use, just have it as a permitted use in that particular overlay area.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So then we get on to text amendment number 3. This actually has to do with the size. And this particular part of the ordinance deals with this specific Interstate 55 interchange overlay district that has to deal with signage. And here this is proposing where it's adding the word billboards, but then would raise what now is the current maximum height of 25 feet up to 40 feet. And then under number 3 there at the very bottom of the slide, also for billboards, would increase the size from a maximum of 100 square feet up to 672. And then maximum dimensions of 48 feet wide and 14 feet tall. These are actually the maximums that are allowed for billboards per federal law and state law. So what was proposed here is the actual maximum under federal and state law. And then the last here, still a text amendment number 3, but it also divides into the 4th item there, that there's actual signage through state law that all regular billboards must be 500 feet from each other, while the digital or the electronic changeable message signs type billboards must be at least 1,000 feet from any type of other billboard. So that's the minimums, and so what we're doing is we're actually just putting the state minimums there. There is one other item that came up last week that the intern found. I've got it here. But it's very important, particularly if you go with the change of the billboard definition. If you remember that at towards the beginning of the presentation, it talked about off-premise sign. That was something to be added to that particular definition. But the existing wording in the zoning ordinance under item G, prohibited signs, and there's 28 types of prohibited signs in the city. But under item number 22, it says a prohibited sign is an off-premise sign. So, if the board wants to concur with the planning board recommendation and allow the electronic message centers and then as billboards, that would either have to be removed entirely, the off-premise signs, or what I'm suggesting is leave the wording in there, but it's prohibited except in the I-55 interchange district. So you can envision that as being like text amendment number 4 to what was up there. That would be a new addition that came after the Planning Commission considered the case. That would conclude the presentation unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Barr? I just want to ask again about that conditional use. So the planning department, meaning you, the director, would have no problem with that being stricken out.
Well, I'm just putting it out there as an idea, as a concept or whatever. Right now, the proposed wording is that even in the I-55 interchange area, as proposed, it would take still a conditional use. But what I'm saying is that as far as the items that get reviewed by the Planning Commission and by this board, there's a lot of them that aren't applicable at all. They don't apply. There still are a few that could be seen as applicable, so I just put it out there for food for thought.
Thank you, sir. Anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Barr, so what I'm hearing is that you're just bringing us up to date. Is that what you're doing with the wording?
Very good question. No, what I'm trying to do is, as far as what's proposed here, is trying to be in step with what the board initiated back in August. From what staff took away from that initiation was the ability to have billboards in town, specifically just in the area of the I-55 overlay sign district. There's 2 overlay sign districts in town, and it was very specific that it would not allow the billboards in the Bullfrog area, the red area on that map, but just the purple area. So what was basically constructed, if you will, was to try to bring about the initiation as far as what was articulated back in that August meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else? And kind of tying into what Alderman Johnson said, other locations and other governmental districts allow these signs. I can think of the Landers Center right off the top of my head down through there. And bringing it up to date, as you said. Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments? There being none, Oh, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller. Please come forward.
Again, Francis J. Miller, voting resident of Ward 5. Now, in the Planning Commission meeting, I argued very strongly, and I will again tonight. I want that sign in the worst way. I want Horn Lake to get into the 21st century. This sign will put us in the 21st century. And that particular night, I was in the 19th century, and they still voted. I couldn't get out of 19, trying to get you guys in the 21st. This sign will put us in the 21st century. I want that sign there, 21st century, but I live in the 19th.
Did you say you were born in the 19th? I see the applicant is in the audience. Did wish to make any comments? Do y'all have Mr. Austin's name, address? All right. Good evening, Mr. Austin.
Good evening, Board and Mayor. Nothing's really changed since we came before you guys back in August. We've got the sign on order, expected delivery mid-November. It's about a week and a half construction, and we can start promoting the city and its businesses. So we're close. Any further questions, Mr. Hogue can answer if you guys have any.
Do y'all have Mr. Hogue's name and address? They've got it, they said, Mr. Hogue.
Okay,
I think Alderman Bostic had a question.
Yeah, how you doing tonight?
Good, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. I just had a real quick question, and you may have already answered this back a few weeks ago, but I forget what I did 20 minutes ago. So
I have that problem.
the messaging on the board will be controlled by you, correct?
Yes.
And it will be to promote the city of Horn Lake and the surrounding municipalities, or just Horn Lake, or just?
Well, we have the ability to do any of that, of course.
Correct.
Yes, the intent is for Horn Lake to be able to promote positive events and emergency events and things like that. I will get with you guys on that too, so that we can put out Amber Alerts. We can do, I mean, that's usually through I guess it's the MBI or whatever, but like the TBI or whatever will have to, take control of that so they can put out an Amber Alert. It'll immediately override everything that's on the board so that the emergency message gets out. But we'll get with them on all that stuff.
Where I'm getting into is going down I-55, and you see the big messaging board, the text message. That's similar to what? You don't have any pictures we can look at, do you? No, just kidding. But that's similar to what we're talking about in a text message, what we see on the interstate, or is this going to be more of a color design and flipping back and forth, kind of like promoting concerts and things like the Lander Center does? Or
Probably can't see this because it's small, but I'm happy to.
Okay.
This is kind of it's a small rendering of the sign that we're proposing, but it will be an electronic sign. It won't be a stationary sign, and it will change.
Right, that's what. Okay.
As he's mentioned, every 8 seconds,
But I'm saying it's not just going to be orange and just letters. It's going to be able to do lots of cool things.
Yeah,
Right? We're going to be cool, right?
No motion. It can't have motion.
Right.
It wouldn't it'd violate the federal law to do that. But yes, it'll have different messages, and I do like all
What's going to limit somebody from contacting you pertaining to a subject that they would like to promote on this sign that you can't do?
Well,
you see where I'm going without having to go there?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we have restrictions with our property owners about no adult entertainment, no anything like that. So you don't have to worry about that. That's we couldn't have our sign there if we did that.
That's what I'm saying. Something's in the contract, like somebody can say, well, you're, what is it? Going against what I want to put up there. You know what I'm saying? I don't want us to get into a battle of, well, you promoted them, why aren't you promoting us? You know what I'm saying? There's a big gray area there is what I'm trying to say. And I just want to make sure whatever it is, I know y'all are planning on doing the right thing. I just don't want y'all to get into something that if you put something up there and you go, oh man, I really shouldn't have done that because now I know I'm gonna get a phone call, and.
No political ads, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Or some other things too. I mean, that's a big list. That's a huge list. That's a lot of responsibility.
I understand.
And I just want to make sure y'all are covered, and if we're gonna approve it to be on our turf, I want to make sure that we're not thrown behind the fence.
No, absolutely, I understand that.
Okay.
And I mean, that's not an uncommon request, and that's a request that we have all the time, all over everywhere. I mean, that's not uncommon at all, and we're very sensitive to that too.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Mr. Austin, here you are, sir. Mr. Holt, good seeing you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it, Board. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone in the audience speak pro or con? All right, this public hearing is now closed. All right, do we have a motion?
Mayor.
I'd like to make the motion, 2100A1 Board of Alderman Initiative for the potential text amendment to the city code for the ECMs as described by the planning director. I do want to remove the stipulations that would not allow that sign. Strictly record, please, I'd like that in the motion. And thank y'all very much for bringing that forward.
Excuse me, I didn't understand the last condition.
Stipulations that we have in our current code do not allow them.
Okay,
In that areas, only in that area that those be stricken from the ordinance.
thank you, sir. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Were you going to second it?
Mayor, I had a question.
All right, you got a second here by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Alderman Geis.
I think we need to add in that it's a permitted use only in that I-55 interchange as requested by the planning director, and also that off-premises signs are allowed only in that I-55 overlay area. Is that what you had requested?
Pretty much what we said. Yeah. That's
Comfortable? Alderman Young is comfortable with that in the motion. Is your second good?
good.
All right. Did y'all get what Alderman Geis wanted to add and they agreed to? Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, the other discussion that was had was whether or not to, the way it's drafted now, it's via conditional use. And you brought up the point that maybe we don't need that. So unless that's added to the motion, that's taken.
Strike the conditional use.
Strike conditional use from it by Alderman Young. Second. Feel good. Any discussion? Thank you, Counselor. Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed, motion passes. Letter D, let's see, public hearing is closed. All right, letter D is a public hearing now open. Mr. Barr.
Thank you. Let me take a minute to organize my papers from case to
Me
case.
too,
here.
Mr. Barr, so take your time.
Because somehow here I got them separated. Oh, very good. Excellent work tonight, Julie, on anticipating my where I want to go with these. Thank you. Yes, this is another rezoning request this evening. And if you look at the slide that's up on the screen there, it shows the area under application. It's part of another parcel at the moment. But basically it's about 2 acres in size. The current zoning is AR, which is the city's agricultural residential district. And you'll see to the subject properties north and east, there's also that same AR type zoning. Across the street to the south, you'll see an area of C4 zoning and some residential R9 zoning. And then on the other side of the road, meaning the west side of Mississippi Route 301 is the unincorporated area. So it's no longer in the city of Horn Lake, but it's the unincorporated area of DeSoto County. And you see zoning of C4, which is directly to the west. And then also AR to like west, northwest of the property. And then there has been some development action in the unincorporated area of the county on the southwest corner of the intersection of Route 301 and Nail Road West. That's been approved, and I'll get to that here in a bit. And you can see some of the zoning there and land uses. To the north, it's trees and grass and a small lake. To the east, there's trees, grass, and a water tower. Developing commercial area on the southeast portion of the intersection, and it's also developing as well to the southwest. So what I tried to do is, as I often do with the rezoning requests, is put the structure of the zoning ordinance and what is allowed. So if the C4 zoning is permitted, now the C3 zoning allows for 60 land uses, but the C4 allows for, I believe it's 53, and so that's what's shown up on the next following slides. So there's 53 land uses that are allowed. If the C4 zoning was approved, I do have to note that the future land use map for the city does call for medium density residential, not commercial. So there is some incongruency there. But again, the land use map, the future land use map is 19, almost 20 years old. So it's hard to know how relevant that is today exactly, even though it is ours. It is part of the city's comprehensive plan. In the end, the Planning Commission took up the request last month, and they recommended by a 5-0 margin of approval to this board, and that would there was no conditions attached to that. That would conclude the presentation, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Barr? All right. Is the applicant here? Oh. Good evening, Miss Amy.
Amy Shealy with Bill Sexton Realty and Appraisals, and we're here with the applicant who can answer any questions that you might have. I represent the seller of the property, which is Walls Water Association. We brokered that deal with the previous owner, Mr. Mann, to Walls Water. They have a little over 25 acres there, and they are under contract to sell the 2 acres on the corner to Mr. Akbar, contingent upon governmental approvals. And Mr. Akbar is here, so he can answer any questions that you have about what he intends to do with the property if it's approved.
Thank you, Miss Amy. So this land and more right there belongs to Walls Fire Department, or Water Association. Water Association. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Do y'all have Mr. Akbar's name and address? Would you please give it to him, please?
My name is Muhammad Akbar. Address is 520 Winding Valley Lane, Colleyville, Tennessee, 38017.
Thank you, sir. Did you want to address the board? You just want to accept questions, is that?
Yeah. If you have any question, I'm here to answer them, yeah.
Anyone on the board have any questions or comments for Mr. Akbar or Miss Amy? Alderman Dupree.
What is your intentions for that land?
Planning to build a gas station.
That would be 6 and 5 miles. 6 gas stations on Nail Road within 5 miles. I'm just saying.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Mr. Miller, glad you could join us this evening, Mr. Miller.
Once again, it's Francis J. Miller, voting resident of Ward 5, voting. Okay, now, in the Planning Commission meeting, they had a whole lot more to say then And it boiled down to, okay, first of all, whether we have one gas station or 1,000 gas stations has nothing to do with us. Competition takes care of that. And competition will handle which gas station makes money or doesn't make money. Now, I thought in the planning commission meeting, there was something more than just a gas station going there, because I remember my comments were, we need revenue, and it was going to be more than a gas station, because I remember that argument, I want the revenue in Horn Lake, and that place where they're putting it isn't going to hurt anybody where it's built, and it's will be revenue. If there was more than a gas station, so I guess I would like to ask that young man, am I misunderstanding? Is it just a gas station, or was there more to generate revenue in that 2 acres? That's what I thought. Convenience store. The money is there. The gas station, I don't think the convenience stores where the money is, and that was my argument then. It's my argument now. We need the revenue. That area needs the revenue. They need that convenience store, and I still argue, don't worry about too many gas stations. They're not going to sell gas anyway. Convenience store, get that revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is anyone else? Alderman Dupree.
I guess we have fundamental differences. Perception of Horn Lake is really big right now, looking from outside in. You ask somebody, where are you from? Horn Lake. Oh, nothing but gas stations, different businesses like hairstyles, hair places. I think we got 27 gas stations, if I'm right, in the city already. Our perception of gas stations is out there, y'all. We've got enough. If you put the gas station in that one spot, that would make number 7 within 5 miles. I'm all for businesses. Mr. Miller's comment was spot on when he said competition. I believe in competition. It's called capitalism. I believe in it. But we also got to look at our city. The perception of our city is on the ballot. We got to stop somewhere. Got to do something. Can we not get some other type of businesses in here, like doctor's offices? Can you put one there? You know, something that's different. Not the same old, same old. That's what I have to say.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mayor?
Alderman Johnson.
I do, and it's just a general question for the board. Right now, we're voting to change to rezone, is that right? We're not voting on what type of business goes there. Am I correct?
You're right.
So we're voting on rezoning right now, so he'll have to come back to us with his decisions on what he may like to put there.
Thank you, Alderman Johnson. Is anybody else? Alderman Dupree, did you have something, sir?
No, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? As Alderman Johnson pointed out, this is a rezoning request. Anybody in the audience? All right, public hearing is now closed. We have a motion? Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to motion that we accept the request number 2101RZ, a request for rezoning amendment for AR to C4, a portion of existing parcel at northeast corner of the intersection of Nail Road West and Mississippi Highway Route 301, consisting of 2 acres.
We have a motion by Alderman Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Geis. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree.
No.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
No.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 5 in favor, 2 opposed. All right. Now moving on to letter E. Again, Mr. Barr, it's all on you, sir.
Thank you. So we're basically shifting gear where you've seen rezonings, conditional uses, that type of, and text amendments request. Now, this is a subdivision. This is the case 2102. It's for approval of the subdivision final plat named the River Oaks Section C. Julie can read my mind, I think. It's getting scary now. I don't even have to turn around. She's already there. So thank you, Julie. Yeah, what we've got here is a vicinity map with the subject property highlighted in blue. Proposed area is 7.42 acres. The proposed number of lots is 34. There is no floodplain at play in this particular area, no designated floodplain. What's proposed is the extension of Thomas Street, which is already existing to the west of the development. This would go through the subdivision and connect to Highway 51. It's actually been built and paved to date. Water providers, Horn Lake Water Association, as is the sewer provider. The existing zoning is PUD, Planned Unit Development. The preliminary plat was approved by the city back on December 17th of 2019. You can see there the layout of the subdivision final plat, the 34 acres and the roads going through. There'll also be a small cul-de-sac called, I believe it's Cortez Cove is the approved name by the county for that cove. The Planning Commission took the case up during the month of September, and they recommended approval by a 5-0 margin. There were some conditions attached to it, and I think I will read through those, and then if there's any questions, we can do that. There we go. Thank you. So yes, the Planning Commission recommended approval by a 5-0 margin. And some of these have actually already been addressed by the applicant in the time from the Planning Commission to this, but I'll still read them anyway. Letter A, address the issue of rear yard utility easement width. Subdivision regulations require a 10 feet wide utility easement, but what's proposed right now is 5 feet. Item B, vacate lots 5 and 6 of the Coley PUD subdivision prior to recording the River Oaks Section C plat. Letter C, accept and clarify COS. It should be 138. COS is common open space. If the city accepts that, please articulate with wording upon the plat the purpose of the space and furnish a mechanism for perpetual private maintenance of said open space. Letter D, add sidewalks to the plat per the subdivision regulation standards. E, clarify if streetlights will be installed and where in the subdivision. I believe they're already working with Public Works on the lighting of the streets. Then item F, clarify the installation of where and by whom the street signs in the subdivision will be by. There actually are already temporary street signs out there. They're the white on black lettering. That's just a temporary street sign. They're already out there as we speak. That conclude the presentation unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barr? Alderman Young.
Mr. Barr, we have 2 entrance exits to that subdivision.
That is correct, yes.
Before we go any further, kind of follow up on what Alderman Bledsoe said a while ago, Chief Brown, do you have any problems with this? Any issues? Mr. Box, do you have any issues?
No, I think that's good.
Chief Linville, do you, sir?
No, sir.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for any one of our department heads? Alderman Bledsoe, this is your ward.
I have one question. They got on this drawing I got here, what goes in the front of that? In front of that subdivision, you don't go all the way to 51 Highway.
Oh, a very good question. Yeah, that's another part of the Coley PUD. If I remember from the permitted uses in that particular PUD, the ones that are out front, basically fronting Highway 51, those are intended for commercial development. Actually, there's, the planning department has been contacted by people trying to work out like entrances for that from MDOT.
I thought it was all done with PUD. Okay.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Barr? Mr. Barr?
If I may add, it will take, probably at a later date or a separate action, is that once the public improvements have been inspected, they'll need to be inspected to make sure that they meet approved construction plans. That would probably take separate action at a later date. I don't know if they're to that standard or to that point at this point in time. And then there was a discussion at the Planning Commission later, at the Planning Commission stage of the open space, which originally on the preliminary plat was identified as Lot 25, but now it's labeled as COS 138. It's also the area for the detention pond, and the detention pond has been built. I don't know if it's all to the construction standards or not, the approved construction standards. But we do have, the city does have in, I think it's section 34-61, there's talk about open space. And that's the way the wording is in the subdivision regulations. That's more like considered at the planning commission stage. But I didn't find any, in going back and researching the preliminary plat stage, I didn't find any discussion on the open space or payment in lieu of not providing open space. So that was talked about at quite a bit of length at the planning commission back in September. So I don't know what the thoughts are of the board imposing any type of fee in lieu of not providing open space. The planning department would have the position is that the detention pond is not open space. It's designated for detention. It's not open space, and therefore it's not different. It's not actually open space. So I don't know if the board has any thoughts on that particular question.
Thank you, sir. That's a very good point. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Barr? This is not a public hearing. Is the applicant here? Will y'all come forward, please, gentlemen? Give your name and address to Ms. Julie and to Mr. Robinson.
My name is Chase Dabbs. Address is 3624 Madison Ridge, Hernando, Mississippi.
Bobby Stewart, 3123 Hunter Road North, South Haven, Mississippi.
All right. Did y'all want to have an opening statement, or you just want to field the questions, or what do y'all want to do?
We'll take the questions. Yes, sir.
All right. I like the shirt too, Mississippi State. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Bostic.
I thought you retired, man. What are you doing?
Still grinding. I did talk to Mr. John at Neil Schaefer, the city engineer, and told him last week that the erosion control was done and everything. He just hadn't got back with me. I didn't know if he was going to. He's been by and inspected it, but I told him we were putting some.
I haven't been briefed or updated on that point.
Yeah, he'll get in touch with you.
Mr. Vance, are you aware of this?
Yes, sir. Our inspector's gone by there and done an inspection for final inspection to check to see, if there's anything from the public utility side or public infrastructure side that needs to be looked at prior to accepting. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any more questions? Alderman Dupree.
I hold heavy reserves on my vote because of that Mississippi State shirt you got on.
Before I came up here.
I'm just kidding.
I'm an alumni, so.
Alderman Bledsoe, this is your ward.
Yes. The common space, you said we don't have any common space in here. Yeah.
Very good question. There is a space of the plat that's labeled as COS 138. which the COS, I would assume, stands for Common Open Space. And it's also the same area as the detention pond that's been built to date. So, but the planning department's position is that a detention pond doesn't function as an open space. It's something different. It's made for drainage. An open space, the purpose behind having open space as a requirement of residential subdivisions is for the enjoyment of the residents there for things other than the detention pond. So it also comes down to the question of what things are dedicated for. Obviously, during a subdivision such as this, where a new road is being built, has been built, there's the transfer of ownership, if you will, from private entity through the street, in this case, Thomas Street, and then Cortez Cove, where actually it gets dedicated to the public, and so it's dedicated for the public, and then the public would assume maintenance of it once it's been verified that it's been built to approved construction plans. So with an open space, you can state the phrase basically dedicated open space, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a transfer of ownership. It could mean that, but it could just mean that it's designated for that use. So in this particular case, it's labeled as COS 138 on the plat, but it functions as the detention pond. So it brings up the question, per the subdivision regulations, that's section 34-61, whether that's acceptable to the board as open space, or it would even require it at all to be designated with the particular plat or not.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Bledsoe.
Yes, what do you think about using that detention pond altogether?
No, detention pond is basically, has a specific use, like you said, for stormwater. I wouldn't consider it at all as a common space. That's what you're asking. Not to use that area as a common space.
And no house can be built there, right?
No, sir. No, sir.
And so they won't have a common space in this whole thing.
There's a sewer lift station already right there in front of the detention pond too.
There's a sewer lift station.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also on that lot, the common open space.
Anything else, Alderman?
We need to stay.
Anything else, Alderman?
I hope not.
Anybody down here have any questions? Well, who is going to maintain this detention pond?
The HOA.
We have a lot of things we're maintaining that HOA's faded out on. Y'all been more familiar with HOAs than I have. You know how they start out gangbusters, and unless somebody like Mr. Freeman is there to run them, they fade out.
Johnny uses a company out of Memphis that's real, they're pretty tough on people. I don't know the name of it.
Same one Chris Montesi uses, or I don't know.
No, sir, we used them in.
So you're saying Mr. Coleman is going to accept responsibility for the maintenance of this detention pond from now on?
Homeowner Association will.
But what if the homeowners association falls out? Are you saying you say this company?
If somebody don't pay their dues with this company that he uses, then
they get a tax lien.
Exactly.
So this company plans on this is like a forever deal.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. Alderman Young.
I remember correctly, and I may be wet here. Do we not have a fee that is related to this, that there's no park, no available free space?
Mr. Barr address that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have, it's a standard. It's in the subdivision regulations. It's section 34-61. And we have a fee structure based upon the number of lots in any particular subdivision. The fee is $300 for developments up to 50 lots or less, and then $250 per lot for development over 50 lots. And then it just goes on to say, it says, all land to be reserved for dedication to local government or acquisition for public use purposes shall be prior approval of the appropriate governmental agency and shall be shown on the plat, reserved for park and or recreation and or public use purposes or open space. D, where a subdivision contains sewers, sewer treatment plants, public water systems, park areas, or other physical facilities necessary or desirable for the welfare of the area and/or common use or benefit, which the mayor or board of aldermen does not desire or cannot maintain, provisions shall be made for the proper and continuous maintenance and supervision of such facilities by the lot owners in the subdivision. So,
How many lots are in here?
There's 34, so based upon the schedule as laid out here, if the board wanted to impose the fee in lieu of providing open space, it would be 300 times 34 lots, which would be a total of $10,200.
When we gonna get our money?
Was this brought up before and when it was passed, or
Sir?
was this brought up before when it was?
It comes, sir.
Okay, well, I can bring you a check whenever you need one.
Okay.
Thanks. When we gonna get our check?
He's good for it.
You want it?
I've heard that before. I'm going back down that road.
When do you want a check?
How about tomorrow?
Oh, he's good for it.
Planning department, and we'll move forward.
Alderman Young, he's more than good for it.
I understand.
Okay.
So was another builder.
Which one? Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Mr. Billy, I mean,
Well, those fees are collected, and Mr. Barr makes sure they're collected prior to recording the plat. So that's the leverage.
I'll get you a check. How much was it? 2? 10,000.
Alderman Bledsoe, this is your ward. Do you have a question, or are you making a motion?
Ask a question.
Yes, sir.
We have no sidewalks in this,
Yes, sir, there'll be sidewalks, yes, sir.
I can't read this map.
Yes, sir, they're not shown on the plat, but they'll be in the civil plans and full set of.
I just make sure,
Yes, sir,
I don't want us to have to sidewalk.
I understand.
I believe, wasn't that in some of the conditions that the planning commission
Some of the
recommended for the passage?
Yes.
Yeah,
With Neil Schaefer.
yeah, we got it settled. We got it. Thank you, though. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Sir?
All right. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Sir?
I make a motion to approve case number 2102 SDFP, the request for approval of a subdivision final plat named River Oaks Section C subdivision located at approximately 5765 US Highway 51 North, consisting of approximately 7.42 acres plus or minus, including the recommendations from the Planning Commission.
We have a motion by Alderman Guys. Do we have a second?
I second.
Who second? Alderman Young, second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
I vote yes, but, I didn't like the PUD pushed on us.
Sir?
But I didn't like the PUD pushed on us.
Alderman Guys?
Aye.
Alderman Bostic?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Young?
all right.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, gentlemen. Alderman Young.
Mr. Bledsoe is exactly right, and that's the reason we need to get with the planning department as soon as we can and reduce these floods around this town. We don't get in this monkey every single time.
Oh, it's been a continual thing.
It's gotta stop.
It's last, what, year and a half, 2 years?
I agree with you.
Would y'all, before we start on letter F, would y'all consider taking about a 10-minute break?
I'll second that.
I'll excuse us just a minute, please.
was the guy I've been working with. Yes, he is from, because had been working with Croonin, and then this guy showed up at
Right, it can be 100.
I told the handicap. Come here.
All right, buddy. All right. We're back. Mr. Barr.
Thank you. The last case for the planning section.
Public hearing is now open.
Thank you. Last case for planning tonight, request for a cemetery via conditional use as prescribed by the zoning ordinance. This case was taken up originally by the Planning Commission back in April, and it was tabled. Staff, we had required the applicant to do some things to try to gain a better understanding of the soil and hydrology of the proposed location for where they want to do the use. The applicant has performed on that, and it was taken off the table in September, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the request by a 4-3 margin in September. You can see with that particular slide, you can see the subject property, which is highlighted in blue, and then more in particular, they want to drill down to the area that's in yellow as far as where they want to do the use. You go maybe to the next slide. What I've tried to do is use that same yellow color that was shown on the previous slide to show this larger area. So it's kind of blown up, if you will. And then you can see where they're proposing to put the building and parking lot, and then the green area, kind of like that army green color there at the top of the slide, is the 1.2 acres where they want to put a cemetery consisting of 520 grave sites. And you see there's some field photos. Actually, they're old now. They were taken back like in March or April. Pretty soon they'll look in season again because the leaves will be off the trees again. Yeah, that's a good one to stop at. So basically the department received a geological report from the applicant of the soils on the site. They'd done some borings for the proposed mosque and parking lot, and they did also one borehole, I believe it's B-3, for the proposed cemetery location. And the cemetery is, I've tried to highlight that on this particular map with that yellow colored oval. And then you see those orange lines, those are separating the different soil classifications. Now the soil classifications come from the NRCS, the National Conservation Resource folks down in Jackson. And so we reached out once we got the technical response, technical report from the applicant of the soils on the site, and we sent that down to them. And a gentleman by the name of James Curtis, he's the state soil scientist. He looked over those reports and the request, and his opinion was that he thought the soils should be suitable for the requested cemetery location. There's some other articles that were included in your packet, one from the World Health Organization, another one from the International Water Association, which are backed with some nice science behind them. In particular, there was it's the one article on the International Water Association article. It opens with a statement that says that one of the chief sources of pollution in an urban area is a cemetery. It's as far as man-made pollution sources. So once you look at the article, it really drills down and uses some nice science, and it uses credentialed scientists from around the planet that have studied cemeteries in different geologic conditions, hydrologic conditions over a period of time, and that was the conclusion that they'd come to. So we felt it was important for the applicant to do something from a soils question, and they've done that. And so the state soil scientist, he felt that because of the soils, as we saw on that one slide that are there from the boring, which was the clay, kind of a clay loam type of soil, that would be conducive to having a cemetery land use there. So the Planning Commission went ahead and recommended approval 4-3. They did suggest conditions. Three of the four conditions have been taken away since they don't meet the nexus holding from the case from the Nolan case from 1987. And so what remains is 5 conditions. Number 1, owner applicant shall install appropriate mix of trees and plantings at the perimeter of the proposed cemetery to help absorb any microorganisms. That was one of the recommendations from one of the articles that I referenced. If people were trying to site a cemetery, that would be a wise thing to do. That it would pick up potential bad things environmentally that would, as it decomposes underground. Number 2, the applicant owner shall place the proposed land use within either or both of the MA, which is named the Memphis Silt Loam, and LG, the Loring Silt Loam soil types, as identified in the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, Custom Soil Report for DeSoto County, Mississippi, for the request of a cemetery. That's dated September 9th of this year. Number 3, if intended to be divided, the owner applicant shall divide the property according to the city's subdivision regulations. Number 4, all burial pits on the site must maintain a minimum of 1 yard of subsoil below the bottom of the burial pit, i.e. the soil depth before bedrock. That was also one of the recommendations from one of the articles, because having bedrock right below a grave site could lead to a conduit. When the precipitation comes down, it could lead to runoff, basically subsurface of bacteria, microorganisms, viruses, that sort of thing. So they thought having a depth of soil underneath would help alleviate that. And then number 5, that if the applicant would pursue expansion, that they must go through city approval processes in the future. So that would conclude the presentation, unless you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Barr? Anyone? Is the applicant present before we start the public comment session? Would you like to come forward with any remarks or have questions for the board? The board like to ask them some questions? Is that yes or no, or? All right, so do y'all have the gentleman's name, address? Would you please state your name and address for the minutes, please?
Mahar Abulshed, 3418 Shiloh Lane, South Haven, Mississippi.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any comments for the board, or do you just want to field questions?
Comment, we're going to comply with all the conditions they put. We will proceed with any request from the alderman or the planning commission.
All right, sir, so I don't hear very well, so I want to make sure that I understood you. You say that you would comply with the recommendations of the planning commission?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions or comments?
That was gonna be my only question.
Was it?
That would be my only question.
All right, sir. All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Sir. Just so we're clear, those 5 conditions that are on the board up there, are you okay with those?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience? Mr. Miller?
Once again, my name is Francis J. Miller, voting resident, Ward 5. Okay, in the Planning Commission meeting, there was an extensive discussion, and I understood the planning commissioners, when they voted the majority, and it wasn't overwhelming, but they passed it. I think the number 1 demand was that the church would be built before the cemetery. Is that the way you understand those conditions?
These conditions, that was a condition put on by the planning commission and approved, but that's in legal counsel's opinion that some of those did not meet the nexus case of the Nolan case from 1987. Basically what I'm trying to say is the question that's before the board is whether or not to have a cemetery, but not how to do funerals. And so some of those conditions really had to do with how to do funerals, which is, it's not per the zoning. The zoning is, the question is, can someone get to have a cemetery at a particular location? So that's the question before the board.
the planning commission, though, gave the vote to pass it on that condition. So now if that condition does not apply, then you need to redo that vote in the planning commission. So I'll make sure that the alderman now, and you didn't have 7 planning commissioners either. So that was the greatest question. Which comes first? And I understand what you're saying and the council's saying, but I want everyone to know that was what tipped the vote to go the way you announced. And I want the board to think about that church, that cemetery, which comes first, when does it happen, how does it happen? And it was not overwhelmingly approved. That's how it got approved, that it was said the church before the cemetery. Now we know that's not necessarily true. You got something to think about now.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Mr. Freeman?
I'm Calvin Freeman. I'm all for it. All that we're concerned about the lighting and is there going to be any future mausoleum going to be built on the property? That's all to the aldermen.
Sir, Mr. Freeman's concerned, is there going to be mausoleums built on that property also? A mausoleum is above ground. No, no
In the
mausoleum.
lighting, yes, sir.
Sir?
In the lighting to make sure it's going to be just going in the woods or it's going to be
Oh,
lighted up, you know.
Mr. Freeman's also concerned, you might want to come forward. He was asking about lighting on the cemetery. Would there be lights? Sir, why don't you come forward? Because we can't hear you back there. The board can't hear you, sir. Hi, would you state your name and address for the minutes, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Ray Elk. I live at 4583 Davis Road, South Haven, Mississippi.
All right, sir. And Mr. Freeman's question was about lighting.
Yes, there would be lighting.
Do you mean like on a pole at night?
Yes. Yes, there would be.
All right. So anybody on the board have any questions for Mr. Elk? Anybody? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the audience have any questions or comments? Mr. Speltz? Y'all have Mr. Speltz's name and address?
I wrote it on here, but my name's Greg Speltz. I live at 4696 Church Road, Horn Lake, Mississippi. My property is, could you go back to the location? It's noted on there as Speltz property, directly west and south of Mr. Elk's property. That's correct, right there. So I'm surrounded by, on the west and the north, by this property. I have a question about that yellow line there that you just pointed out. Is that where the mosque is proposed to be built, or is that the cemetery?
That would be
I'm talking to you.
That would be both. So if you'd use, if in the presentation, if a person looks at the two slides, this one here is kind of like, I would consider it like a vicinity map. It's just trying to show the subject property. The subject property as a whole is about 80 acres, and that's identified in the blue. And so what I've tried to do is, I think what their desire is, they want to divide off the smaller part from the 80 acres, and that's what I've tried to identify with the yellow boundary. So when you go to the next slide, yeah, that one there, it's that same yellow as that same area that was taken from the previous slide. And so you can see there, that's where they would place the mosque, the parking lot, and the proposed cemetery, with the cemetery being on the north side of that smaller area.
Okay, well, so that's going to be that's going to be on the far west corner of the 80 acres. All right. Mr. Elk himself told me from the very first meeting that that was not going to be the location of the mosque, that their first rendering was incorrect, and that was not going to be the case. So evidently that's incorrect. Either what Mr. Elk was saying or what's being proposed now. So this is something definite. He told me himself personally that that was not going to be the location. He showed me a rendering saying this was not going to be, what was being proposed is not what he desires.
What we see before us is that's the area that's desired, as far as the
Okay.
proposed land use.
So from the get-go, that's kind of a sham to start with, along with a lot of this other. On this, how many acres is the cemetery now? It's 1.2 acres, is it? That's it? 1.2 acres. How many burial spots will be in that 1.2 acres?
520.
On 1.2 acres. That's a lot of dead bodies in a small area. And who's gonna oversee these bodies aren't gonna be buried in a vault or a casket or anything, right?
I defer to the applicant on how they want to bury.
Well, who would I ask that question to?
I think they're here in the meeting room.
Okay. Maybe y'all need to ask him the question. Or do I need to ask the question?
You can ask him if you want to, Mr. Phelps.
I'm sorry?
You can ask him if you want to.
Will they be buried in a, I understand. In a what? Okay. Okay. Is that a customary number of bodies to be buried in that small of a location? Well, I'm just asking, that's the standard. Okay. So that's gonna be behind the mosque. Okay. Did you not tell me months ago that that's not your intentions of where you want to put?
You need to address the board. I was reminded by council, you need to address the board. Mr.
Oh, I thought I was supposed to talk to him.
Well, you asked him that question and he answered it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The 3 minutes is up. Would y'all consider letting Mr. Phelps have a couple of more minutes? Is that all right with everybody? Yes, sir. 2 minutes. Go for it.
I appreciate it. I understand that all of the board of Aldermen's decisions have been overruled by a federal judge. I understand that the planning commission's 2 votes of no, Aldermen's 2 votes of no have been overruled, so I don't understand how you can sit here and have 411 signatures from people that live in this community, or y'all are the representatives of them, be denied what the request was asked for this not to take place, and then one man's request is going to be granted. I guess that's what the federal government does. So in my mind, democracy has failed. For the people that live in the community, somebody else outside the community is going to dictate what happens. I wonder also who's going to oversee these burials I don't know. I guess that's kind of a ridiculous question.
I think there has to be a funeral director present at a burial.
Sir?
I think there has to be a funeral director present at a burial.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. McCampbell?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I guess, I don't really have any argument to make. I'm just very disappointed in the way, this has all turned out due to nothing against Mr. Elk himself, just due to the fitting nature of what all's going in this area, that when you have such a large gathering of people to oppose this, and now here we are going through with everything that's taking place. I'm just disappointed in it, and don't really understand the need for any of this if everything is just gonna go over everybody's head and have a federal judge outside of this area tell everybody what we gotta do and impose fines and all over what a community tries to vote on.
Mayor.
So, I just wanted to make that statement.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, but even extended time's up now.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Spells. Would you come back up? I think one of the aldermen wanted to ask you something. Was that you?
Both of us. I was going to
Alderman Dupree.
I was going to ask Mr. Billy to help him understand what we are going to do, why we have to do it, because he was asking about the law. Could you maybe speak on that a little bit, about the law?
The law with respect to our conditional use process, what, I'm not exactly following.
Well, he was talking about the law earlier of what we have to do, because there's no real law in Mississippi to combat or say no.
If you're trying to satisfy me, I'm good. I appreciate it. What's done is done. What's gonna get done is done. Me having an understanding of it is not gonna.
Okay, I just wanted you to, I wanted you to feel better about it. Thank you. I'm trying here.
I understand. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really don't need an explanation.
He lives here.
I know, I'm a
lived here a long
immediate neighbor
time.
here, and,
Let's move on. Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
I'm good.
Do you have any other remarks, sir?
Did somebody else say?
Oh, Alderman Young, did you have a question?
Now, all I want to say is that the law does require them to have a certified funeral director at every service.
Okay.
That will be required. They have to do that because it has to be,
This is all new territory for
Oh,
everybody,
it
for
is for
y'all
us.
as well as myself. I'm just
Our mule's
trying to
been
have
in
a
the-
good understanding.
our
of it.
mule's been in the mud
Appreciate
for a
it.
couple of weeks.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
All right. Good night, Mr. Gregg. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any comments from the audience? Anyone else? All right. This public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to approve case number 2079, conditional use, a request for a cemetery on 1.2 acres of a larger 80-acre plus or minus parcel located at 4600 Church Road West, with the 5 conditions that the Planning Commission submitted and the applicant said he agreed with.
Did you want to include the lighting? Or what do you say, Mr. Billy? Is that?
I would leave that to the discretion of the owner.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. We have a second by Alderman Johnson. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
I would like to amend that motion with the fact that they are required to have a licensed funeral director by the state of Mississippi at each and every funeral for recording purposes and to make sure that the process is followed correctly.
Are you comfortable with adding that, Alderman Geis?
Mr. Mayor, that is set forth in a Mississippi State Statute 73-11-65. I don't think that's necessary for your motion to approve a conditional use permit for this. Let me, just by way of example, if we had a conditional use for a liquor store, we wouldn't approve a conditional use for that liquor store and say, look, you can't sell to anyone under 21. That wouldn't be a condition for that. It's already set by state statute. You don't need to include it in any approval.
You withdraw that request, or?
No.
Okay. Did you want to add that request, Alderman Geis?
I think I'm going to follow the advice of legal counsel.
All right, so your first motion stands. Your second still stands.
Yes, sir, it does.
Anybody, any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman
Me.
Bostic.
Aye.
Just a moment, please. You gotta give me a moment to answer. Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. All right, moving down to number 6. New business, sir? Yes, sir.
I would like to invite everybody this Sunday to the property for the groundbreaking. We're gonna have a little celebration,
What time, sir?
2 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we'll be sending you letters. Thank you.
Thank you.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock Sunday. Thank you. All right, letter 6, number 6, letter B. All right, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I think this is something that, excuse me, I'm sorry, I need to raise my hand.
We having a motion or is this another topic?
No, this is the same thing that you just brought up here. I knew there was some emails sent out from Ms. Linville concerning this. And I wanted to see if this is something that we need to discuss before we make a motion to do this. I don't know how she's going to process this with the rate. There's recommendation of the employee paying some and the city paying some, and I mean, I'm good with whatever. I just want to know if that's something that we all need to discuss and agree on what we're going to do as far as the employee paying part of this when they hadn't had to pay this before.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up when we had discussion for the motion. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys.
make a motion to approve the payment of annual payment of the Air Med Care Program for all full-time employees effective October 1st, 2022 through September 31st, 2023 at a cost not to exceed $60 per employee.
Second.
We have a second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Alderman Bledsoe.
Is that a month or is that for the year?
That's for the year.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Bostic, do you want to?
Yeah, I was just, is that just something she's going to take out of the check, like one check's going to be $30 short for everybody?
I don't know how she
We're
intends.
going to pay it all. City's paying it all. So this is not going to be part of.
We can add it to the discussion. So that's what it is. Yeah. We got a motion here, for the city to pay $60 for every employee. I know that Alderman Dupree came up with the idea of split it 30-30.
Just a few cents a day.
All right, and it comes out to what, $2.50 a month? Something like that. All right, but in speaking with Ms. Linville, you know, we have health insurance. And what happens on this, help me out here, Reverend Robertson, you know this, is that if you have an accident and either the doctor or the EMT people say they need to get on there and airlift them, well, then the insurance company has to pay for it, regardless of this. Regardless of this. Now, they might, one lady was talking, Ms. Tara Warren said that she was in a situation where she had I guess, an accident, and the medical people there said she got to be airlifted. The insurance company argued about it, but ended up paying it. So I wanted y'all to know that information before you voted on it. I'm like some of y'all, you know, maybe yes, maybe no. Did you have anything else to add, Mr. Robinson?
Well, in the discussion we had with the department heads, there was some discussion that came out that we really couldn't, if we split it 30-30, we really couldn't mandate. They would have to choose whether they wanted that option. It'd be a logistic issue trying to figure out who's electing it, who's not. You know, there is benefits, you know, in the past years that we've had this, we've had anywhere from 4 to 6, I think, was discussed, that have utilized this. Our staff have been injured and have been airlifted, so it has been a vital service. One positive thing, it's a little over $11,000 for that. We did get an email from our insurance company that we're getting a rebate back of this year of $12,000 that was not expected. So that kind of takes care of that if the board sees it that way. But it would be hard to set that up, but we wouldn't be able to mandate that everybody has to pay the 30. It'd have to be an elective choice, but you know, it can happen if the board sees not to pay the full amount.
Well, thank you, sir. It was $30, and they doubled it up to $60, is what they did. And I asked Mrs. AJ, if it is 30-30, does everyone have to participate for us to get the price of $60? What if half the people say, well, we don't want to participate? And she didn't know. She hadn't gotten an answer yet. Alderman Geis, did you have a comment?
I just had two thoughts on this. If I'm correct, every year, at the end of the year, Miss AJ gets with the insurance company and they make a decision on if they're going to raise our rates based on how much they've had to pay out in coverage. So if the insurance is paying for a $30,000 helicopter flight, and we have 3 or 4 of those, that could potentially make our medical insurance go up that the city is actually paying. But if we're getting it, the person's basically getting it for free for $60, this is a savings on the city, potentially.
Yeah, and I mean, say we don't have this and somebody's transported, bad scenario, transported by ambulance, and by the time they get there, they have a lot more issues. Maybe they go into a coma. That's a higher case that hits our insurance. I don't mean to belittle anything or any situation. Everybody is extremely important, but this could get somebody taken care of a lot quicker. And get them in front of the doctors, and maybe their case they would be, you know, completely recovered from that, and not a heavy case that hits our insurance.
And also, it would be a difference in the employees out of pocket, what they had to pay out of pocket. They wouldn't be paying a percentage of a helicopter ride.
Yes, this would cover, and Ms. AJ did think that, you know, anybody, and I think Chief Linville even stated this, anybody could opt into this, that they offer this membership to anybody. So I don't think it would change the price if we had half of the 189 elect this. I don't think it would change the price because they offer it to any individual out there in the public. This company bought out the previous company, so they're more nationwide, so it does expand our coverage for the areas that they service. Life Flight was kind of only in this area, so that is one benefit. All the areas that they service, if somebody's out of town on vacation, and it happens to be in one of their service areas and they get injured, it would be covered by this Life Flight.
And if I may, just like Mrs. AJ said and Mr. Robinson said, this is open to the public. This is open to the public. In other words, anybody in the audience, and if the city didn't take it, I could go buy it myself. If I want to take that risk. But I'm not speaking against it. I just want the board to know all the facts on this deal. And I think Chief Limble, was it you? And I don't remember quite, so that sometimes it takes a while for the airbag to get there, doesn't it? If it's available even sometimes. Is that
Yeah,
you?
Mayor, I mean, we work accidents and, you know, we can call for a airback or helicopter, and sometimes they make it, sometimes they can be 20, 30 minutes out, and they may ground transport. It depends on the situation, if a person can wait or, you know. My rule is we don't wait, we transport as quick as possible. If they need to go to the med, that's where we gotta go, even if it's by ambulance. But the airback, I mean, you've probably for years seen that ad where the wing put out years ago, you know, what does this ride cost? It's $50. Well, they have different fees, but this is under AirMed Care, which bought out the Memphis wing. There's no wing anymore. They bought them. Now, a lot of the same people that work there still work there, but they was bought out and they're covered that way. So years ago, there was that group thing, but I don't know now, it may be $100 and they give you a deal at 60. I don't know exactly what AirMed package off the street for each individual, but if you loop into that, what they're trying to do is make money as a membership, and that membership kind of keeps their wing afloat, I guess you say, but, you know, they're just in it for, but if they do transport you, doesn't mean they don't bill the insurance or whatever, but we have 1, 2, or 3 cases where they just had to honor their membership. So, that being one of them was one of the firemen that was hurt on a motorcycle several years ago, but, you know, he didn't pay for that flight, he was a member.
Thank you, sir. Is there any more discussion? Alderman Bledsoe.
One thing about a crucial patient, time is everything. If you don't get there, get the helicopter, get there in time, it'll save somebody's life. Me, I was hurt down, you know, cut my leg off, the wing was out. So I had to take a bumpy ride on the ambulance. And I barely got it, but I bled out when I got there. Just thank God for the med, because they brought me back 2 or 3 times. And I think it's well worth the $60 if we can afford it. I think we got the money. I know in the years past we didn't have money, but now we got money. If you save one person's life, it's well worth it.
Amen. Is there any more discussion?
Not after that.
Nope. No, you're right, Alderman. Well, the board knows the pros and cons. Roll call, please, Ms. Julie.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, moving down to letter C. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
make a motion to request to recommend the Nell Road Water Treatment Plant Upgrade Construction Contract be awarded to Phillips Contracting Company, Inc. for the base bid items plus the additive bid A in the amount of $2,190,500.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Any discussion? If y'all will notice, this was the first company that bid on it, that made an error in their bid, and they withdrew their bid. All right. Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, I have a list of citizens here. Is there anybody out there that's on this list? Yes, sir. Come forward, please, sir. Your name and address for the minutes, please, sir.
Absolutely. Austin Beard, 5177 Nail Road. I've got handouts, if I may hand them out, Mr. Mayor.
What are they concerning?
The skate park, the skateboard park at Latimer Lakes Park.
Oh, yes, sir, please. Have to be, know what you're planning on passing out to them. I don't know. Good, I can see it better.
Okay, I'm good.
No, that's fine. We got it right here.
You got 3 minutes. You have 3 3 minutes, and we haven't started your time yet. But I mean, if it's gonna be a lengthy presentation, you might wanna consider putting it on the agenda for the next board meeting.
I can handle this in 3 minutes.
All right, go for it.
All right. So my name's Austin Beard. I graduated from Horn Lake High School. I went to Ole Miss. I joined the United States Army. I did 5 years active duty. I've been gone from this area for about 10 years, just recently moved back, and noticed that the condition that the skate park is in is not great, especially when you compare it to the other facilities at Latimer Lakes Park. And so what I did is I got some friends together. We formed the Horn Lake Skate Park Association. So the goal there is to do what we can to improve the situation at the park. And just kind of going into the fact sheet on page 2, we can read over this another time, but basically our purpose is to serve the skateboarders in the community by providing a safe and adequate facilities, events, and programs. And so you'll see our priorities listed at the bottom there. I'll come back to that. But if you go to the next page, page 3, I've just listed some important statistics here. Skateboarding is the third most commonly reported interest for high school students. Skate parks are statistically more popular than other sports fields, play areas, fitness zones, and dog parks when comparing the total weekly use hours. Skateboarding improves mental health. Youth and adults get their CDC recommended daily cardiovascular exercise while skateboarding at skate parks. The very bottom point, skateboarding is the third least expensive sport out of the 21 most popular sports. So, as you know, there are a lot of families in Horn Lake that can't afford to do things like baseball, football, traveling, all that type of thing. So, very important. If we go to page 4, I've taken some photos here of just some of the local skateboarders. We have Evan, age 11, Jamie, age 9, Kevin, age 36. Kevin is autistic. Skateboarding is his activity of choice. Nikita, 17, high school student. At the bottom here, we have Berenice, single mom with 3 kids. She brings her 3 kids to the skate park on the weekends. That's what they do to enjoy themselves. If we go to page 5, I did a brief survey. I interviewed 40 skate park participants. If you look at the first question, 77.5% of the people I interviewed go at least a few times a month. If you look at the third question here, about nearly 20% of the people I interviewed are actually parents or guardians of participants at the skate park. If we go to page 6, the 2 important questions, big important questions from the survey I conducted. First question, as an individual skate park user, how would you compare the quality of the skate park to other sports facilities at Latimer Lakes Park, such as the tennis courts, baseball fields, and disc golf course? 85% of participants say that the skate park is either a little bit lower in quality than the other facilities or much lower in quality than the other facilities. The next question, how would you rate the Horn Lake Skate Park in its current condition as compared to the other parks you have visited? So this is comparing to other skate parks around the country. 95% say that the skate park needs some improvement or a lot of improvement. And so you'll see on the next page, page 7, I've listed some areas of improvement. We don't have benches right now. Some of the ramps are coming off the ground. There's paint graffiti that's been there for over a year at this point. There's lots of unused and empty space. On the back, I've actually compared our skate park to other skate parks regionally. So, we have a population of 27,000. Hernando, Mississippi has a population of 16,000. Their skate park is much better than ours. And actually, they're getting it expanded. So their skate park will double in size later this year. And they have a population of only 16,000. I've also listed Dixon, Tennessee here, population, again, of half of what we have. The skate park is much bigger and much nicer. And then if I may just go back to the original point of our priorities, listed here, restore and preserve the family atmosphere by painting over the graffiti and otherwise continue to maintain the physical integrity of the skate park, provide adequate seating by repairing the existing benches and raising funds to construct additional seating, unlock the bathrooms so the skateboarders can have a place to use the restroom while they're out there, repair or replace the skate park lights to bring it up to par with the other facilities at the park, and raise funds to construct new skate park obstacles to replace those that have been removed. So there are 2 ramps that have disappeared with no intent to replace them, it seems like. And so all I ask from this meeting is to be officially recognized as the Horn Lake Skate Park Association and just to propose a question, what can we do to get this thing improved?
We're not going to get into that tonight because your time's up.
Yes.
But I would ask you to please consider putting yourself on the agenda for the first meeting in November, where the board can have time to listen to you. This is too important just to jam into 3 to 5 minutes. 2 years ago, I was in favor of taking out the skate park because some of the conditions you missed. Why are the bathrooms locked up? Because the bathrooms get tore up. I'm not saying the skateboarders do them, but you need to talk to Mr. Coleman down here, our parks director. And we've had the vandalism we had there. One year we had to get them repainted. Somebody painted them. You weren't the director then. It was John. Who was it? I'll get there. And real slick paint. It was too dangerous. One year somebody had gone out there and undone the nuts off of the things. If somebody fell down, it would have killed them or hurt them seriously. So the thing about the skateboard condition of it is it's all brought about by the people who use the skateboard or for some reason are around it. It's, I'm not going to get into it tonight, but you made a point in how it looked, and I'm telling you, sir, because of vandalism, it got to a point where it was dangerous to let anybody be on it. We've fixed it 2 or 3 times. Two I know. Then the bathrooms were getting tore up, so that's why the bathrooms are locked up. So I'm proud you got this association because I would love to have something really first quality to offer our citizens if it's going to be taken care of. We can't put a guard out there, unless your members want to volunteer to sit there, and I'm sure they don't because that's ridiculous. And it only takes a few bad apples to mess it up for everybody. And this seems to be one of those situations where we have a group of people, whether they're skateboarders or not skateboarders, that have messed it up for everybody a couple of times. And really put us in a little jeopardy situation by having it where someone had gotten hurt, we could be responsible for it. So I hope you understand my...
Absolutely.
All right. And where do you live?
5177 Nail Road. It's the Twin Lakes neighborhood.
Okay, you're just right around the corner from me. So if you would you please consider getting on the agenda for the first, is that all right with everybody? Yeah. No, Alderman Bledsoe had a question.
I'm the reason the skate park's there. When we built it, it was nice. I talked to Tony, can't remember his name, the big skateboarder guy in California.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I talked to him.
Wow.
That's post-tension concrete. I was gonna get him to come, but he wanted $20,000.
Oh, God.
We figured that was out the window. The bathroom, we put a security camera out with security down there. They tore it off a dead gum pole. They tore the stuff up. We went out there, me and the mayor, we went out there and cleaned the graffiti off more than one time. And we told the skateboarders, if you see them do it, call the police or do something. Nobody would help. So we couldn't maintain doing it. And some of the aldermen before, they wanted to put sand all in there. I said, we spent almost $100,000 on that thing. Kind of bad, covered up. But if we had help doing this, I'm 100% for it because it gives somebody something that don't like baseball, don't like tennis, and we put it over there kind of by themselves because they're different than everybody else. So that's the reason it's there. We left land there to expand it, but at the time we had no money. So maybe in the future, maybe we can expand it. We can call Mr. Hawk, and maybe he can give us some ideas. But that concrete is post-tension. It is with fibers in it that's pulled tight.
Mm-hmm.
We did that special. I went to Germantown and Kydeville. That's where I got the idea and called Mr. Hawk. So it's been planned a long time, but when they start stealing the dead gum ramps and using some money, and
So the actual skateboarders are disappointed by all this as well. The actual skateboarders, all of us are disappointed by all of this as well. We want to solve the same problems you guys want to solve. And that's kind of one of the things I want to combat here is there's an underlying assumption that the skateboarders are vandalizing their own facility, and that's not the case.
In the case we had, a lot of people were coming from out of the city. And they was hipping themselves, and they didn't like it, they tore it up. They didn't want Horn Lake to have something. At the time, we had the best one around here.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true.
They tear ours up, they go up there to theirs and say, "Ooh, how nice." Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Alder Johnson.
I just want to applaud you. You saw a problem and you got a group together and you're about the solution. So I applaud you for that. Please come back to speak with us when we have a longer time.
I will, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. You're in the Army?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Glad you're home safe.
Thank you all for your time today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your time, and I'll get on the actual agenda and we'll take it forward.
Please do. All right. Mayor Alderman correspondence. First off, I want to thank every department head and all your staffs for the wonderful job you're doing for our citizens. In the times we're in, you're doing a remarkable, remarkable thing. You all know that the school board agreed to let us have the property for the new animal shelter down there, as long as it's state animal shelter. It will be ours. They also were very complimentary. Mr. Billy was there and Mr. Robinson about the fact that the Horn Lake Board of Aldermen stepped up to help out with the SROs. I thought that was very nice of Mr. Usselton. Do you remember that?
I do, Mayor. They made a point of that.
Yes, he made that. So I think your support of the SRO program went a long way for we're gonna get the land. I've got some bad news here, though. I think most of you are aware, Miss Kelly, who worked in the Chamber of Commerce, passed away last night. Please remember her and her family in your prayers. Officer Scott Evans lost his father Thursday, if you remember him in your prayers. Ms. Von Bachman, longtime citizens of this area, they live right there on the northwest corner of Horn Lake Road and DeSoto Road. In her 90s, she passed away. But for some good news, I'd like for us to all recognize that Chief David Limble just celebrated being with the city of Horn Lake for 28 years. Thank you very much, Chief.
Long time.
Well, thank you very much, Chief, for your years of service to the city and the citizens. And that concludes my remarks. Alderman Young.
I'm just amazed that he's been here 28 years. He's only 32 years old. No, sir, I have nothing.
Alderman Dupree.
No, sir, I have nothing.
Alderman Johnson.
No, sir.
Alderman Bostic.
No, sir.
Alderman Geis.
No, sir.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Yes, sir, I have one thing.
Yes, sir.
If we do, what we're gonna do, the animal shelter,
Yes, sir.
once we give it up, all buildings go back. Whatever we build there, goes back to the county. So
Right.
everybody understands that. We had that park, build it, on the city property, and you leave, we had the soccer association. They left, we inherited the building. So I want everybody to know that.
This ought to be good for all of our lifetimes. Anything else, sir? Alderman Klein.
Yes, sir. One thing, I'd like to publicly thank Chief for the invite down to the Fire Academy. And if they do it again next year, which I'm sure they will, I highly recommend everybody go because it is amazing what all they can do down there. They train all over the country, and I think they're number one in the country. So it's a trip worthwhile taking.
Thank you, sir. Chief Brown, do you have anything for the board, sir? Anybody have any questions for Chief Brown?
I do, sir.
Alderman Dupree.
I just now remembered, I got a couple of phone calls about speeders through the school zone on Horn Lake Road and on Nell Road in the morning times.
Anything else, sir? Alderman Johnson? Alderman Bostic? Alderman Geis? Alderman Bledsoe? Alderman Klein? Good. Mr. Box, you have anything for the board?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I don't have anything this evening.
Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments for Mr. Box? Chief Limble, do you have anything for the board, sir?
The only thing I was gonna say is, Mr. Klein, October the 19th of 2023, it's on the schedule for the academy. I looked today. I'll have it a year. So I'm giving you a year in advance. I will try to come back a month or so before that date to hand you out if you want to register for it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I say book me.
Well, just letting you know, it's on the 19th of October of 2023. I don't even know what date that is, but it was on the calendar today. So hopefully some of the other ones that didn't get to go can go or can kind of plan on it for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Linville? Alderman Young.
Book me too, sir. That was an awesome trip. It was fun.
Thank you, gentlemen, for going. Mr. Drew, you have anything for the board before?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. Just reminding everyone that the Halloween Spectacular is going to be Saturday, October 29th from 5:30 till 9. So everybody come on out. That's all I have.
You need volunteers, don't you?
Yes, sir. Volunteers would definitely help.
Yes, sir. You said you got plenty of candy and you told me, but I forgot. How many other groups are going to put up and give out candy?
So far, we're just over 50 for the trunk or treat. So it's going to be a good showing.
Good community event.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Drew? Alderman Dupree.
The Mayor's Youth Council, some of these children, young adults, they're going to come out and help as well.
Yes, sir.
They're going to call Miss Lisa.
Anyone else? Mr. Malavasi, do you have anything for the board, sir?
No, sir, I do not, Mayor.
Anyone have any questions, comments for Mr. Malavasi? Mr. Barr, do you have anything else for the board?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've got two items. One is the first phase of 4 phases of the rental housing quality introductory letter going out to landlords and owners. They'll go out tomorrow in the mail. There was about 220 on the first phase, so I just wanted to update you on that. And then I've tasked the planner. Now, thank you for approving the hire and personnel changes in the planning department. I've tasked the planner with updating the planning department's website to try and incorporate all the different things that are now in the department. The way it looks now is just not adequate. And so when that gets done, hopefully I'm thinking that'll take about a month, more or less. Then people will be able to go to individual like tiles or sections. Basically, you could call them divisions. You could have the rental housing division or the code enforcement division or the building permit division or the planning division. And then they could drill down from that. If people want to get on that particular page of the website to learn more information. So hopefully that'll better reflect the new makeup of the department. And probably I've been thinking, I've kind of pitched the idea a little bit to Jim or whatever, of maybe renaming the department altogether, not just planning, since there's so many elements that are part of the piece of pie or the whole pie, if you will, of the department. And that might actually do well on the web page as well. So it's just something we're thinking on that third item there, whatever.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Robertson, you have anything, sir?
Yes, passing around the sales tax. This completes the year. We get sales tax from the state kind of in the rears of when it comes in, but we did receive September's. You'll see that was just shy of 600,000. Good news, the past 2 consecutive years, we had 0 months where we lost compared to the prior year. We had gains compared to the same month the year before, ranging anywhere from 15,000 to, you can see our highest was 106,582, higher than the month the previous year. So you'll see down there that we ended the year with sales tax of 7.483,762. So a little over 7.4 million, which is good. We hope the economy continues to keep going that way, because the budget you approved for 2023, we projected sales tax of 7.3. So even if we stay flat to even, we will make budget in the sales tax next year. So let's all hope and pray that the economy stays at least even. A couple other things, the mayor did mention the school board approved us, and we've started moving forward on surveying the plat over there. Mr. Vince has been out, his team has been out there surveying the land so we can do an official proposal of the actual plat of land and then move forward with Mr. Mike with Shelter Planners of America to get that next phase in place to where we can go out and issue bonds. Once we get the land officially approved and designs in place, we can get bids for bonds for that facility, and we'll have a better idea of the true costs. We kind of had a range from Mike with Shelter Planners of America. I did contact, since the budget was approved, did contact an architect. They're going to be in here next week to start putting the designs and specs together for City Hall renovations that is also in the budget. And once we get that and put that out to bid, we'll be able to, again, initiate a bond to pay for the renovations of City Hall. Looking to do ceiling to floors, so new ceiling, new lighting, new paint, fix all the walls and rip up hopefully every piece of flooring in here and put some new up-to-date flooring in here. Also, our hopes are to replace these chairs in here in the courtroom. A lot of them are falling apart. So once we get the renderings and specs from the architect, we should be able to get that before the board also. So those are two things that I've been working on and hope to have before you. I also put in your packet the response from Brent Ballard. I've been hounding him. Actually, the mayor has even been hounding him, and you saw his response. I was hoping to have that today. He's saying before this weekend that they hope to have that final audit. He said he was working on it all this weekend, but he has to do that final review. So hopefully we will have that for you soon. The only other thing, the mayor mentioned it, keep Miss Kelly and her all her family and friends. That was very unexpected with her passing.
Mr. Billy, you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right. That being the case, we have Alderman Klein.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
On the renovation, are they gonna upgrade, figuring in our technology? You get us from over there, keep us from having to do this?
Yes, we've actually already got, Mr. Daniels met with two different groups. And this would already be working on, but one group backed out and wouldn't give us a bid. And we have to have two bids, so we're soliciting another group. One company gave us a pretty good bid on having multiple screens on both sides and another one out in front for you all, so you wouldn't have to turn sideways. They would have another one out here. So I think 3 screens, and then some other technology to help with our sound and our cameras and everything. But unfortunately, that one company, we could never get them to give us a second bid, and it'd be required because it's going to be anywhere from probably 19,000 plus for that.
Anything else, Alderman? I see now, here's a flyer. Miss AJ designed it. She's worked real hard. Miss Julie, all of them designing this, getting these sponsors, McGriff Insurance, Liscombe and Pitts, Mr. Dale's, Chick-fil-A, Domino's, for the Thanksgiving feast. Please, if you can, get off and come. It's a way for the city to thank all of our employees for their working all year. So that's what I got. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I had one more thing, sorry. Well, it came up last board meeting, Alderman Bostic asked about the Purple Heart, and we did clarify that, I spoke with Walt Starr, with Congressman Kelly's office, and, because we did the proclamation, he said we were already, approved. We just have to, the city is responsible for getting the signs, and we're looking into that and getting the pricing through a couple vendors. Walt Starr had a vendor, so we want to try to keep them all looking the same as South Havens and Olive Branch, so it looks the same all the way down Church Road. But we are still working on getting those Purple Heart signs up, so.
There was a little confusion because one state senator thought that we had to have a resolution to be presented to the legislature, which doesn't meet until January. But now we've come back and found out that because y'all did the proclamation, we don't have to do that. And so if there's no other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, Alderman Johnson. Alderman Johnson said to be sure, and all of us concur, that our state representative please attend. We will be honored to have you there. And it's good food, and we don't talk politics. We just have a good time for Thanksgiving, kind of our Christmas deal. It's neutral ground, Representative. Come on.
My mayor,
Alderman Young.
we need to let you know that all state representatives, it's $100,000 a plate. We need money.
And of course, we extend that invitation to every one of our state representatives and senators. Okay. Thank you, Alderman Johnson.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. November the 9th, 9 o'clock, our Veterans Appreciation Breakfast at Landers Center. If you know any veterans, it's all free, as everybody on the board knows. It's all free, the veterans and their families. We haven't been able to have it for a few years due to COVID. We want to try to get a good crowd out there. The Horn Lake Choir is going to perform. The Honorable Judge Lynchard, our Chancery Judge, will be the guest speaker, and he's a brimstone speaker. And our guest of honor will be Mr. Pickens, who's 100, and I think Mr. Earl Warren, who's 90 and still wears his Marine uniform, is planning on coming. 9 o'clock on the 9th. 9-9. If there is no other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
All right, motion by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye. Oh, aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you, Board of Aldermen, department heads, and thank you, the citizens.